All right, it is time now once again for the Dawn and Eli Take on the World podcast. My name is Elias Melas, but you can call me Eli for short. And who is this wonderful, beautiful, amazing, lovely lady to my right? What is your name? Make sure you mention your name this time because you do have a beautiful name.
All right. My name is Dawn Redwood, and I'm your girlfriend.
You could tell that she was looking at me with disgust there.
I was not.
Because I was overly emphasizing how beautiful her name is.
I was not giving you a dirty look.
Now, let me make this very clear. This is not abusive behavior. This is called playful banter. And I mentioned that at the beginning of the show because that's the topic today. We're going to be talking about what's abuse and what's not abuse in relationships. We'll get to that in a little bit. But before we get to that, baby, it's been one heck of the week here at the Genuine Networking Association, or GNA for short, right?
Oh, it's been quite a week with the GNA. Quite a week.
Why don't you tell us about it?
Oh, well, I think you say it better, but basically, we had an eventful week on YouTube with the case that we're in. We've spoke about this before. So a lot of new things have come up in that situation. Mm-hmm. And a major thing happened on Friday that we will talk about, but it does correlate with our topic of the day. So just stick around and listen, and I'm sure you'll be amazed and enlightened and educated.
Wonderful. I wasn't planning on talking about it, but we can. We've got to tread carefully because, like I mentioned on the show yesterday, and you already know this, I've been advised to not talk about certain things for the time being. And so we're going to stick to that. But
we'll keep what we say very vague. Very vague.
We don't have to be extremely vague, but we're just not talking about certain specific things. But anyway, welcome to the show, everyone.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, babe. What else has been going on? It's been a crazy week.
Well, obviously, y'all know we have a lot of appointments and things that we have to run around throughout the week, on top of doing work with the GNA, or for the GNA, I should say.
Right.
But doctor's appointments, everything went well. I do have an upcoming surgery on the 10th of July.
On your clavicle.
On my clavicle and
shoulder. Show them where your clavicle is at.
Oh yes, my clavicle is this bone right here.
Don't show too much, baby.
And
this is
I'm not.
This
sweetheart.
is PG TV.
If you come up and look right here, you'll see the bone sticking up, and that's the broken clavicle. See, on this side, you don't see a bone. Mm-hmm. So they have to go ahead, and they're gonna have to do a bone graft, and so do that, and they have to work on my shoulder with the muscles and ligaments and everything. So I will have metal in my shoulder.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do the podcast on that weekend, but we'll see. I might be in a sling and feeling just fine.
Well, you're going to have an outpatient surgery.
Oh yeah, it's outpatient, so I will be home. It's all depending upon how I feel after the surgery, if I'm able to get through an hour and a half show, without having too much pain.
That's right, guys. And to give you the ultimate tip regarding women, what matters most to women is how they're feeling in the present moment all the fucking time. Nothing else matters than that. So you got to understand, women's emotions are in the present moment. Yesterday doesn't really matter as much. Tomorrow doesn't really matter as much. What matters is right the fuck now.
Correct.
Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not. You're not wrong. I don't want to classify it just as women, but I do feel reactions. There are more reactions in women than than men.
Unless they're bitch-made men, and we know quite a few of
Well,
those, especially on the YouTube spectrum.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything about that. I was just being broad in the sense that there are men out there that are just the same. So he will say just women. I like to blanket things. Or spread things out. I don't like to blanket one gender or one type.
You like
of
to
person.
include everyone, and so do I. But in certain scenarios,
yeah, I agree.
There are specifics.
Yes, I agree.
Mhm.
It all depends on the situation, where you are, what's going on, and how you react to that. That's the major thing in relationships, and whether or not you know it's abusive or not. It's the reaction you give. And if you take it to a whole nother level other than just bantering and joking around with each other, then that gets very toxic.
Let me ask you a question, babe.
Yeah.
Because you're a wonderful woman, and, a woman is the right person to ask this question, and you happen to be my lady. Do you feel there are times where you've misperceived something to be abusive that actually wasn't abusive?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I think it's all situational, depending upon the person and their past and what they've gone through with prior relationships.
You're talking about traumas, right?
Yeah, the traumas that people have in their relationships, to why those prior relationships didn't work. And when you see or hear something remotely the same, you are going to just
It triggers the
flip
shit out of
out.
you.
Yeah.
It triggers the shit out of you, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And it may not even be something that's happened to you, but it's something that you've witnessed and you've seen how it affects people. And it's just, you take everything in as a collaboration of what's going on. And then you have to react, and you have to really think about your reactions.
Right.
Because if you take that and add more fuel, then you're just creating a problem. Sometimes people have to agree to disagree.
That's true.
And keep things civil. And, it is what it is. We're all individuals. We all have our own opinions, our own minds, the way that, we've grown up and developed our own self. And so with my therapy, I have learned to take that step back before I react. And that has to I also have to have my village, my people help me to do that. So when I see that I'm kind of getting to that level, I have to step back and communicate and say, alrighty, this is getting too out of hand. We need to agree to disagree and move on to another subject.
Even if we're live on the air, like the stream you and I did
on Friday,
this past Friday, as of the recording of this podcast, we're recording this on Sunday, June 29th, 2025. It will be released throughout the entire podcast network on Wednesday, July 2nd. Oh my God, the 4th of July Independence Day is right around the corner. We'll talk about that in just a little bit here. But, baby, I mentioned this because, again, sometimes I may say something that wasn't intended to trigger you, but because I didn't know it was a trigger, it triggered that past trauma of yours, and then you reacted. And I want to hold on before you respond. Let me just finish my thought here, because this is the important part. Especially like when you're live on the air, and like you reacted to something that I was doing that was not directed towards you. I was fighting for the business. I was actually fighting someone that I thought was a troll in the chat, and it triggered the shit out of you. And then it made people lead to believe that I was being abusive when I was not abusive. Sorry. And it's not fair to men that are good, innocent, down to earth, nice, sweet, loving, caring, giving men like myself to be painted as an abuser, especially publicly when I'm not. So these are situations that need to be talked about. And we need to make it very clear what's abuse and what's not abuse. Now, of course, when you're on YouTube doing, live streams and shit happens, people take it way out of context. People that don't like you are going to think you're just an abuser, even if you're the nicest, sweetest person in the world. Right, babe?
Yeah. Well, there's always going to be the person out there that's going to flip it around, and gaslight. And
gaslight is a great word. Gaslighting.
Yeah, and gaslighting the situation. And so that's where it's like, okay, so for instance, if Eli is saying something and it's starting to boil up and starting to trigger.
It's like a volcano, right?
The
lava starts to build up and then it just blows, right?
Exactly.
Boom.
And that's what happened to me on Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was trying my hardest to communicate with him and say, you know what? Okay, we all understand how you feel. Let's move on. And at that point, Eli was so fired up that he couldn't. He's like, no, I have to say what I have to say. And I felt that he was bullying her because he zeroed and isolated her. And I didn't feel that was fair. Okay. Now, it wasn't a trigger for me, but it was a trigger because I've seen it done so many times before and I know how that feels.
It's been done in previous relationships by other people and it triggered that trauma, right?
Exactly.
So may I ask you something? I don't mean to cut you off, but it's very important at this point. I ask you this, am I an abusive man?
I don't feel you are. I've been in abusive relationships and I don't believe you are an abusive man. No.
Okay.
I think you're a very highly opinionated man.
I'm extremely highly opinionated.
And very stubborn.
And I'm stubborn and very highly opinionated. And I'm very protective of the people I love, especially my lady. You and my mother. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm protective of the rest of my family too. But, when it comes to a man, the two most important women in the world are, one, his mom. Sorry, mom comes first. Your mom
absolutely.
Will always come
my
first.
Mom comes before,
and then
my
you
dad.
Come right, and then you come next, right? And I'm an old school man. I'm about protecting and providing. If I can't do those things, I'm a fucking failure, and that's how I feel. In your
eyes.
Well, I understand we're in the modern world and women are working, and in many cases, women are the breadwinners nowadays. I get that, but I'm more of a traditional type of man, and even if a man is in a relationship with a woman that's working and he's working and they're bringing in similar money, his attitude should be like, I'm the man in the relationship, I'm here to protect and provide, even though my lady can provide for herself nowadays. It's just that masculine mentality of we love our family and our lady is our family. She's our immediate family. And we want nothing, bad to happen to her. And that's just how, I've always been.
Yeah.
And I understand in the modern world, it can come off as controlling and being overwhelming and overbearing. It's not, for me, it's not about trying to be controlling, with you. It's about protecting you. Number one, protecting you. I hate to say this, from yourself.
Oh God, yeah. Not just me, but yeah, he's talking about everybody.
I'm saying I'm not just the outside elements that could harm you, right? But protecting you even from yourself. Like I'm very protective of the people I love, and that is not abuse. But I understand nowadays women are extremely independent, and that's just the way it is. But even then, I'm a little bit old school, and I'm always going to be there to catch my lady when she falls. If she's going to fall, I'm going to be there to catch her. And there are times I've caught her literally while she was having a seizure. And she was walking off, she was walking off a little frustrated, or I don't even know what it was, baby. It happens. Everyone has frustrating moments, but I followed her, and then she was having a seizure, and I caught her because I've seen it happen before. Like that's just how men are. Good men are.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say that is refreshing to see that there are men out there that still value our old school ways, And I think that's because, in our generation, everything was still going in the right direction. Um, we had some learning to do in our generation, definitely. But I think we were set up better than we've set up the next generation. And I'm not blaming anybody. I blame myself too. I mean, it's like there's no one individual to blame. I know I've made mistakes, and all I have to do is learn and move forward and not make those mistakes again.
Right. You learn from your mistakes.
Every mistake is a learning opportunity.
Right. Right.
And don't be ashamed of your mistakes. I mean, we are not perfect. We're not robots. We are going to make mistakes. We're going to have emotions that react or overreact. We are human beings. And the level of abuse, if you want to say that. Now, I complained a lot after my injuries and my seizures and all that because I felt Eli was being overwhelming, as well as his mother. And I felt like, oh my God, I just need some space to get better. And, he learned as time went on, as I got stronger.
Well, when I realized you getting stronger and you didn't need me to be there, see, sometimes this is a problem too, in my opinion, that we need to talk about and resolve, not just with us, but in any couple, in any relationship, right? Sometimes women think they've recovered enough because they just want to be able to do things on their own again. And, they say, let me just do it on my own. Let me do it on my own. And then that time that you think as a man is too soon to not be there for her, to catch her when she falls, then she fucking falls.
Well, yeah.
I've seen that happen. And then the thing is like I should have been there. Like I should have been there. Like, it's like you want to listen to your lady and respect her and not make her feel like you're trying to be controlling. But then, listening to her is too soon. So you listen to her and then she ends up falling and hurting herself again. And then it's like, that's what pains me when I'm the kind of person that knows when I need to be there and I know when I don't need to be there. And it's a thing that you got to communicate with your partners.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no right or wrong answer.
No.
It's not abuse. It's not being overwhelming or overbearing. It's basically, protecting the ones that you love. You protect your kids, your mama bear.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
I'm like Papa Bear to you.
Well, and you have to understand, from the age of 19 to 45, 40, or 47,
mm-hmm.
I had never had that support. I needed to be independent. Not so much in my marriage, but definitely the two other relationships before Eli.
Mm-hmm.
So it was refreshing to find a man who did value the old school ways.
Mm-hmm.
That I knew that I would be taken care of, financially, physically, everything, emotionally. It did take time though for him to understand my emotions and who I was.
And I'm still learning.
Well, yeah. Because when you start dating, everybody knows when you start dating, it's nothing but an act. You're on your best behavior. It isn't until about 3 months, 6 months, where y'all start learning.
So you're saying
you
I was
really
being
are.
a bad actor for 3 months?
What?
I was being a bad actor in our relationship for the first 3 months?
I didn't say you were bad.
No, I know, but it's an act. You're saying that you're on your best behavior.
Well, of course. Everybody comes out saying, they're going to do this, do that, and then they do for the first 3 months.
But I'm still doing it.
Will you let me finish?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, but then after the 3 months, you see more quirks. You see other things that you didn't see in the first 3
Mm-hmm.
months.
Yeah, I'm right about that.
And then you get into like maybe a year, and that's when you move in together.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when you really have your eyes open to
Holy
the man
Moses.
or the woman you're dating. You find out everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a big old bomb in your face. And then you have to, like, literally, my therapist always says pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to see if those other little things are even worth it. You know, Eli does this most annoying thing is he walks around and sings my name all day long. He spells it out, sings it.
DAWN.
Yeah.
Dawn. That's your jingle.
Well,
I
yeah,
gotta make
whatever.
that jingle, actually.
But, you know, it is so annoying. But I love him so much that I tune it out until it really, like, it's getting too much. Then I'll say, alrighty, let's stop the Dawn song and let's move on.
Do you know what I put up with since you moved in? Is the fact that your farts smell 100 times worse than mine. You've got the nastiest farts I've ever smelled in my entire life. And then you know what happens? She starts to giggle, that weird laugh she has. She's got that psychopathic laugh, right?
I'm psychopathic.
It is psychopathic, baby. I'm sorry. I got to be real, okay?
Oh my goodness.
And then sometimes, like when we're sitting on the couch, you'll tell me I just farted. I'm like, oh shit, and then like 3 seconds later, oh my god, it smells like a toxic waste dump site or something like that. It is absolutely
horrible.
It's atrocious.
Why would you do that? Why would you like let all of that out?
Because we're talking about, listen, sometimes you're going to have fun, playful banter in relationships, right?
Yeah.
And that is not considered abusive behavior. Like, listen, when you move in, like you said, when you move in with your partner and you're living together, you're going to be smelling each other's farts every single fucking day, babe.
Pretty much.
That's just the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to smell my shit and my farts, and I'm going to smell your shit and farts, you know? And that's
you're there when they're sick and they're throwing up. You're sitting there rubbing their back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not gross at that point because you love that person
you get used
so
to it.
much. Well, it's not even getting used to somebody's farts. That I don't think you're ever used to mine because they are all
it's
one of a kind.
Those are your farts are fumigating farts, like, you know.
You want to clear a room?
It's just wow. It's a room clearing fart. I will tell you, like it's
but
toxic.
I'll own it. I'm a girl, and you know what? Being in the medical field, everybody farts. Okay,
they do.
It's just a fact of life.
Don't they call it flatulence?
Yes, it's flatulence.
Flatulent, right? Is the proper medical term. Or they say passing gas, right?
Well, yeah, we don't walk in and say, "Did you fart?" You know, we walk in and say, "Have you passed gas?"
Well, that's because you're a licensed medical professional, and you're working for a prestigious hospital, and you don't want to lose your job, or you don't want people to give you a bad reputation, right? To say bad things about you, so you get a bad reputation. Yeah, I get it.
But it all depends on the patient, the person, the family, and their sense of humor.
Yeah, it depends if your patient is patient.
Well,
and a lot of them are not because they're in the hospital. They don't want to be there.
No, they don't, And so if you can and read the room, that's the best thing in any situation is reading the room because if you feel toxicity, you know you're going to need to step back.
If I had a nickel for every time I heard read the room from you or somebody else on our G&A executive team, I would be a billionaire right now.
If you heard what?
If I had a nickel for every time I heard the phrase read the room, Eli, from you or the G&A executive team, I would be a billionaire right now. I need to learn to better read the room.
Yeah, that is something, and I get on him about that.
She does.
Now, could that be considered abuse because I'm trying to change his behavior? Some people might say that's narcissistic.
It might be a little bit annoying, but being annoying is not abusive.
No.
Unless you do it over and over and over again, then anything that's repetitive over and over and over again could be abusive if it's not wanted by the other person.
Yeah, and it always stems back to your reaction and how you speak to that person in that time. You know, if you react, that's only going to make them react more. So you step back and try to, you know, what is that?
Assess the situation.
Assess the situation and kind of dispense all the tension, you know, redirect it into something more positive. And I know that's hard. That's hard to jump in the middle of something like that. I have a hard time here. You know, when he is on a tangent about something on YouTube, it's like, I just have to shut down and listen because it is something that does boil my blood. So I've taken a step back. I listen. I try not to overreact with my responses. And I think that's really helped with the GNA. We do have our phone calls, and we have a lot of respect for each other's opinions.
I will say this. When I was running in-person networking events at the older version of the GNA, in which we're going to do that again in the future, we're going to tour the U.S. We're going to run some local networking events here in Northern California where we're at. But when I was initially running it, I had a really good executive team and a team of leaders. And I'm not trying to discredit them in any way, shape, or form, but I will tell you right now, between you, Sandra, and Tia, the four of us being in the executive team, you three ladies are the absolute best three executives I've ever had. You're the three most amazing, most considerate, and understanding and loyal people on the team that I've ever had. And I just want to let you all know I greatly appreciate all of you, including
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
I will speak for the ladies and thank you for
well, you
all
have
of
to because
us.
they're not here.
Of course, but I don't like to usually speak for somebody else, but I know
I'm sure they'll be okay with this one, right?
Yeah, they'll be okay. They would say thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else before we get right to it? We have two amazing Reddit postings we're going to go over today that are going to shed a lot of light. And Don and I are going to dissect the living poop out of these.
The living poop?
Because they're very, very good.
Yes. I have not read them. He always does this to me. He always comes up with the articles and the topic. And I find out either the night before or 2 hours before we're coming on to record.
Do you know why I do that?
So I don't freak out?
No.
Why?
No, because you don't need to rehearse for something that's
natural.
You already know, and it's more natural, right?
Yeah. The only thing that the other ladies and I don't want to say have a problem with, but feel like sometimes we don't know enough because we haven't had the time.
You haven't researched the actual overall topic.
Yeah,
not a specific posting or something, but if you don't know enough about the actual topic, I can understand that. And yes, we've talked about that. We are going to be, in the future when we do shows with the ladies, or if I do a show with you, we will definitely get you the advanced information. But something like this is more so something on the fly. This is something that I want to see raw emotion. And for me, I can read something and then reread it and still show the same emotion as if I read it the first time. But I've been doing these shows for a long time. So, I know how to do that. But people that don't have the experience podcasting and doing the shows like I have, and you're getting, I'm not saying that you're not there. You're all getting there, but it takes over a decade or so to really, really be able to do things boom, boom, So it's all good.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Anything else before we get to the Reddit postings, baby?
No, I think I've said enough. Let's get more into detail.
29-minute monologue. Not bad. At least it wasn't 40 or 45 minutes like the one we did a few weeks back. 29-minute monologue. 29 minutes, baby.
Doing better.
Yeah. Well, I love our monologues. Our monologues are probably the best part of the show because it's just us naturally talking, and even when we, read some Reddit postings or go over an article on the internet, we're doing massive amounts of commentary, almost pretty much line by line. We completely transform it. Anyway, all right, so let's go ahead and switch on over to the browser screen. I'm sure you're going to have to use the potty room.
Not yet.
Not yet, but at some point you will. This will be about a 2-hour show. So let's go over to the browser screen there. This is from the subreddit r/Aquatar. And the topic, or the title of the original poster's posting is, what is and is not abuse? Abusive relationship warning signs and the importance of word choice.
How much did I just speak about your words?
Your words mean a lot.
Absolutely. I didn't even know what this title was.
Mm-hmm.
Had no idea when I was just rambling off right now. And so, I mean, that says something right there. That says something that we're not just blowing bullshit up your ass. We're actually speaking of life experiences of
Absolutely.
our own. So carry on with the article, babe. I think it's a great one so far.
It's a great title. You already love the title. That's great, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they put rant. This is expanded from a comment I wrote on a previous post, but this comes up frequently enough that I feel it is really important we clarify what constitutes abuse and why it is important to understand in real life as well as when reading this series. Well, we're not going to read the series. There were some sections here that were very interesting. We're gonna get to that. But I guess apparently they're talking about something named Aquatar, and I guess it's like a series. Maybe it's like a movie or television series or something, or a book series. I'm not quite sure what it is.
What is it called again?
Aquatar.
I've not heard of that.
Oh, A Court of Thorns and Roses book series. That's what it is. It's the acronym for the A Court of Thorns and Roses book series. So anyway, I guess there's a lot of abuse involved in there. So the characters that are in the book, there's abusive behavior in there, and they're trying to talk about, what is abusive and what's not. So let's see. Recognizing and differentiating the warning signs of abusive relationships can be a life or death skill in real life. I agree with that, baby, because if you trigger anyone to a certain point, they could be emotionally dangerous enough to kill.
Yeah, it's like a switch in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
That's like you've gone through it. Okay. And then boom. Nope, no more. And then it gets out of hand. Yeah.
So basically, you've got to, as a human being, male or female, you've got to recognize the warning signs. And no matter, how frustrating a situation may be, like, guys, if you're with a lady or your lady and she's having moments like my lady did the other day, your job is to try to de-escalate the situation, not escalate it. And that's what I was trying to do.
You were not trying to de-escalate.
Well, initially I was. It wasn't even towards you. It was towards the troll. But initially, I was still going at the troll. But then I was like, I think you were having a panic attack. Some people thought you may have had, an asthma attack. You actually had a panic attack. At that point, I was trying to make sure you didn't fall. And then some people on YouTube were saying Eli was putting his hands on Dawn, abusing her. No. Was I putting my hands on you in an abusive way?
No.
No, not at all.
I did tell him to leave me alone.
Because you were triggered.
Because I was triggered and I didn't want to be on camera.
Right.
And the closer you came, the more I was on camera.
Well, I actually, at one point, I went off the air because my concern was your well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but you allowed me to get that far because you wouldn't stop. It wasn't about what you were doing to me.
I was triggered at the troll, at somebody I thought was a troll, which I'm realizing is a real person just using, a fake name and a fake picture. And that happens. And I got to learn to just understand that a lot of people on the internet are going to be anonymous, but there's a real supportive person behind that. So, lesson learned, right?
Yeah, a lesson for Eli, a lesson for myself on maybe I wasn't communicating efficient or aggressive enough to get through to him because he was already on his own, like he was going. And having to try to talk to somebody when they're already at that level and to bring them down is nearly impossible.
Well, let me ask you something. That's a very good question. Let's go back to full screen for a second here. It's a very good question. So, like I said a bit ago, when a woman is having a moment and her emotions have been escalated and she's really triggered and pissed, the job of a man is to try to help you calm down by approaching you in a calm manner.
Mm-hmm.
I was triggered, but you did not approach me in a calm manner. You got very triggered.
At first, I was calm, and I did tell you to let it go and just move on. Everybody has the point.
Right.
I even interjected and just calmly said, you know what? We're not trying to be pushy. We're just saying that our content should be worth $2.99 a month.
It's worth more than that, but hey, it's up to the public to decide what they want to spend. Yeah.
I did say at least. So,
right.
So yeah, and that's what frustrated him is he works very hard and we're not getting the revenue that we deserve.
I was frustrated because of that.
Yes.
And I'm just learning to say it is what it is,
Yeah.
There
are going to be hundreds of people that come in that are not going to donate a dime.
That's true.
And we just have to keep on working.
You got to roll with it.
Yeah. And you know what? Maybe one day it will hit them that, oh yeah, I'm getting something out of it. Let me throw them $5. And you never know.
And I'm not trying to go against what you're saying.
Yeah.
It works both ways. Just because you feel you were approaching me initially in a calm manner, that's not how I felt. Now, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I think in some cases, some women just have a stronger tone of a sweeter voice, meaning that your sweet, kind voice may be a little bit more of a stronger tone than some other women.
Oh yeah, I have authority to my voice.
And no disrespect, mad respect. Your mother, is from Brooklyn. You were born in New York.
Staten Island.
Very, very nice area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We got to go visit sometime. I've never been in New York. I want to go to the Big Apple. They still call it the Big Apple, right?
Yeah, they sure do.
Start spreading the news, right? Okay. And
yeah,
that's Frank Sinatra, right?
Yes.
Yeah, my dad, God rest his soul, big Frank Sinatra fan. I got to find my dad's Frank Sinatra vinyl collection. It's somewhere. That thing is worth a lot. He has all of his original records when they were first released.
They're probably in the garage.
I want to frame those things. I swear to God, I would frame them and just put them in the studio. Like that's what I want to do. I want to take my dad's older records, all his memorabilia. My dad used to also sing, and he was a cantor of our church for 45 years before he passed away. And he passed away at the church before an Easter liturgy, 16 years ago, right, babe? Something like that. And so sometimes you have that New Yorker tone of voice, which to a New Yorker, that's the nice and sweet version of communication. To a Californian like myself, where everything is low key here, that comes off to me sometimes as, very
aggressive.
Very aggressive in my face. So this is why communication is very important with your partner. And this is why we're raw and real here, because, that's what probably triggered me more. And I wasn't triggered at my woman, but she tried to calm me down, and I misperceived her way of calming me down as aggressive instead of nice and sweet.
Well, I felt I had to be somewhat aggressive
Mm.
because you have such an overpowering voice. And especially when you get worked up, you don't even take a breath sometimes.
I can talk all night, baby. I can talk.
You talk in your sleep.
I can talk in my sleep.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's also another frustrating thing. And so as you're going off and you're in your element right
in my
there,
tangent, baby, my
yeah,
tangent.
yeah. I am having little, like, I have little things to say and put in there to try to calm you down before I'm like, fucking Eli, just shut the fuck up and move on. And it almost got to that, you know?
Whew.
That's why I tried to walk away. That was a learning thing that I've learned from therapy and probably just having the right vitamins and mood stabilizers. And I'm not ashamed to say I'm on mood stabilizers.
You've got anxiety and you've got nausea medication, Zofran, ondansetron, Zofran, hydroxyzine, anxiety medication.
Yeah.
You've got like 14 vitamins you take a day.
Mm-hmm.
All good stuff. The regimen you're on is fantastic. Oh, by the way, somebody in the chat yesterday, I'm sure you saw it, and I think they've even commented on the channel. They're saying, you're looking really good, Dawn. You are.
Thank you. I appreciate that, guys. I've worked really hard.
Like they're seeing the progress. This is not the product of an abused woman. She's not a product, but this is.
Yeah, no, I mean, guys, I lived in an abusive relationship where I was hit and strangled and punched. And that's abuse. That doesn't even like cover the verbal abuse. I was getting verbal abuse from him as bad as what the trolls are saying about me. When you're in a relationship, that's not necessary. Like, you really want to talk shit about my kids and me? Well, dude, your kid doesn't like you and he lives 4 hours away. Mm-hmm. So why are you going to even talk shit?
All right. People are very hypocritical on the internet, baby. They're hypocritical in the real world, baby. People have always been hypocritical when they're not in a place where they'd rather be. And when they see other people in that place, like we have a great relationship, people hate us just because we've been together almost 4 years and it works. For whatever reason it works, we know why. But we're just saying for whatever reason it works for us and we're able to keep it together. And that's what other people want. Other people that are even married, they still come at us. And that just tells me that they're just miserable in their marriage. There's something lacking in their marriage that they're seeing in us. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. It's a projection and a direct reflection of how they see themselves when they troll and they do stupid shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But when we get to the next, I think it's either later on in this first one or the second one, you mentioned abusive relationships.
Yeah.
And there's something that, we'll go back to your past relationship, and I think it's going to open up your eyes. So let's continue here. So we are at 44 minutes. Are you still good?
I'm great.
Okay. All right. Where are we here? First, we have to understand what the word abuse implies for interpersonal relationships. Abuse and abusive relationships are more than single harmful acts. To quote from this source, while the definition of abuse is simple, the meaning of abuse isn't so clear. Well, that is true. yes, abuse is when one person purposefully hurts another, but that is a common occurrence in life, and most of us are guilty of engaging in that from time to time. That is true.
Mm-hmm.
We have our moments. We all have moments.
Every human does.
Every human does. We all react. We overreact at times. That doesn't mean we're abusive.
No.
You know? But a lot of people on YouTube like to take every act of overreacting as abusive. And that's not the case. And that's what a lot of these people do when they have no other content. They like to overly dramatize everything for the clicks and the ratings and the shock factor, of getting people to drop everything to tune into that. Right, baby?
And it's funny. Everybody thinks it's scripted. What we're doing is scripted for views and all that. Nothing we do is scripted. That was pure, raw Don and Eli at probably our worst on camera. And that was it. We yelled at each other. Who doesn't do that? Who doesn't? I mean, I got in the car and screamed. I was so frustrated.
Oh my God, you were so triggered. That must have triggered your trauma. Like,
what triggered me the most was that you were not seeing how I was crumbling, and you wouldn't stop. You wouldn't say, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll check it out. Let's leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what was triggering more, is that you really weren't hitting that de-escalate button. You thought you were, but what you were doing, you weren't listening.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? No, get away from me.
In your eyes, I wasn't listening. So I need to learn what works for you. It's not that I wasn't trying to intentionally not listen. It's I wasn't listening in the way you wanted to be heard and understood.
Yeah,
and that's why it's important to talk about it with your partner, right?
Yeah, and that's why when we were walking, I said I need to have a break. Like, continue filming, but I'm going to just keep walking. And I need to get my eyes not teary, get my head back in the game. But that's not what you wanted to do. You wanted to keep going. And I couldn't. And that's what caused the panic attack, is I couldn't get away. I need to get away and get myself.
You felt that you were trapped, like
Yes.
you felt before in previous relationships. And so also another thing to take into consideration, right? This is important, guys. And Dawn, this is important that we talk about this because, you went to the car and you closed the door and you were screaming at the top of your lungs.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing the door was closed, because somebody could hear you doing that, call the cops on me, and I could get arrested for doing nothing illegally wrong.
Yeah, no matter what I say.
Well, they would ask you if I'm abusing you, but it would be up to them if they're going to arrest me or not. The bottom line is, ladies, you got to communicate better with your man, because, and it happens to ladies too. Sometimes the abuse is on the opposite end. Sometimes the lady is the one that's being abusive. And then, it's like the man will overreact and stuff. And then, she'll get arrested. Like, it's rare that it happens that way, but it can.
Yeah.
But more so, when it comes to women overreacting in public and screaming at the top of their lungs, okay? If there's somebody around, they're going to look at that. They could call the cops. The cops could come and arrest you for doing nothing wrong.
Yeah.
That's another big concern of mine, because I don't want to be going to jail over something I didn't do.
Who does?
Right. But, and here's the thing. At that moment, you're in such a high level of emotional distress. You're triggered. You're amped up over a past trigger being triggered that I didn't realize at first, right? What if you're still pissed off when the cops show up and you say he's abusing you? If you lie and tell them I abused you and I didn't, they would still arrest me.
Yeah.
And then that would be really destructive to our relationship or anyone else's relationship, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about this because all of this happened over a stupid YouTube troll in our case, right? And it wasn't a troll. She's a real person. I apologized to her on the stream the other day. Okay. Over somebody I thought was a troll, over somebody on YouTube that's nameless and faceless?
I was like this because she has been in our chat. She's been very supportive, and everything that we're doing, she supports. And so she maybe was a little aggressive in what she had to say about certain people. And we don't want that. We don't want people making fun of past mistakes or highlighting things that could embarrass them. That's not what we're all about. Now, if you want to say somebody's sneaky or somebody is like literally doing something, then that's fine. You know, you understand what I'm saying there?
Yeah. If you're going to come into our YouTube chats, and this is for our YouTube audience, and if you're on the podcast side of things, you can click in the description of wherever you're listening to this audio only, and there's a link to that current week's episode to our YouTube, version of the podcast, the video version. If you're going to react to somebody in one of our live stream chats or any YouTube live stream chat or any chat on the internet, right? Stick to the actual topic or stick to whatever you're disagreeing with that person that they're talking about at that point.
Yeah.
So, for example, if someone is saying that, this particular person had a kid at a younger age that he wasn't aware of, and even though that is not true, just say, hey, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go and attack the person that was trying to say that was true, and then attack them on something else that happened to them years ago that triggers their trauma. Mm-hmm. What I'm trying to say is that don't try to intentionally trigger people's traumas just because you disagree with them on something they're currently saying in a YouTube live chat. You understand? And that's what really triggered me.
Yeah, there's no reason to talk about somebody's character, or not their character, but their appearance. And that's what these people do. They go straight back to grade school when, you made fun of somebody because they had freckles or they had buck teeth. And it's like, you make all these little silly jokes about them when you're in grade school. Well, these grown ass men and women are doing the same thing 7-year-olds are doing.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, okay, you want to talk about me and you want to say that I'm ugly or I'm too skinny or whatever. Okay, that's your opinion. I'm happy with myself. I love who I am. I love my weight. I love the way I do my makeup. I like my hair. It's like all these stuff. I love myself. I don't have to prove anything to anybody else.
But here's the thing, babe. I think there's a right and a wrong time to talk about people's physical appearance or weight. And I talk about it when it's relevant to actions they've taken in their life that took them from being in reasonable shape to being 150 pounds overweight. So, for example, and I'm not going to use certain examples. There are people on YouTube, when I first met them, were, let's say for a man, 170 pounds, right? 165, 170 pounds. They ended up doing stupid, crazy things on YouTube for many years. Never got out, never exercised. Always ate, highly caloric, highly processed, sugary foods, right? Again, not exercising and jerking off on YouTube all day, creating vile content, to an audience that wants that content. Also, some of these people were sponsored large amounts of money to do this type of content, which didn't help their cause because then they sat around all day doing this instead of going out and exercising and eating healthier and all that, right?
Yeah.
So in that context, that's basically sharing an example of what not to do, because then you'll end up like this. Okay. And it doesn't happen overnight. It happens over the course of time. You know, with some of these people on YouTube that gained over 100 pounds, it happened progressively over the years. And I kept on reacting to their videos every now and then. And I would say, look, if you continue going down this path, you know, you're going to gain a lot of weight, and it's not sustainable long term, and it's going to affect your health. And now we're looking at it 6, 7 years later with some of these people, and they're fatter than ever. Now, that's not fat shaming someone. That's saying, look what you did to yourself, and try to understand what got you there and the position you put yourself in currently health-wise, right? Go ahead.
That went for me.
Does that make
also.
sense?
You know, that went for me as well. You know, I wasn't overweight. I wasn't doing that. I was severely underweight.
You were 93 pounds at one point.
93 pounds. I don't think I ever was 93 pounds in my life.
You
honestly.
were with me.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and let the people know that had nothing to do with me. It had to do with choices you made, right?
Oh, I came into the relationship like that.
Well,
you know?
you were a little over 100 pounds when you came into the relationship.
Yeah, but then I got sick. And then when I got sick is when the weight loss came, because I couldn't eat. I couldn't stomach things. I was having problems, like I was chewing, and I couldn't swallow for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so a lot of food was like yogurt,
it was nasty,
smoothie, you know, ice cream, all of that stuff. So I wasn't really gaining a lot of weight. And obviously I was malnourished, so I had no energy to do anything to build the muscle. So it was
you're more prone to falls because you don't have energy to stand up. Additionally, when you fall and you have less weight, your bones are, you know, more fragile and frail, and they're more prone to breaking.
Yes.
And so she learned her lesson from that.
Yeah. So I'm saying it can go both ways.
Right.
You know, and so you just gotta, the most important thing, listen to your body. Your body is your temple, and you need to take care of that temple. Otherwise, it's going to crumble to the ground.
Yeah, I'm not here to fat shame people. There are people in these drama groups that are fat shaming these people, right? And then there are other people like myself and people that we associate with, and they talk about other people's weight, but they do it to try to share the story of how these people gained this weight, and that way you don't put yourself in their position, right? So when you're doing it as an example of what not to be and how it can affect you, okay, you're basically teaching something. And those people that have gained the weight may not want to be the example, but I'm sorry, you are the example. If you don't want to be that example, then be an example of what a healthy person looks like and acts like, right?
Mm-hmm,
Go ahead. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right with that.
Mm-hmm.
I know it might come off sometimes in the live walks that it does sound like fat shaming, but it's not coming from there. It is more of an encouragement to let these people know, hey, we see this, and we don't want to see you continuing down this route. We may not get along as people, but you're still a human being, and we don't want to see you be affected by poor health choices. So that's where it comes mostly from. I made horrible health choices, which got me into the situation I was in 2 years ago. And now, slowly, very slowly,
but surely, it's getting there.
It's getting there.
You're seeing progress every day, huh, baby?
Oh, my God, yeah. Appetite, completely back. I have very minimal pain. My physical therapist and my other doctors that work with that, sports
a lot of
medicine.
doctors have been working overtime with Dawn.
Oh, yeah.
She's been living at the doctor's office.
Oh yeah, they feel I'm part of their family now.
Absolutely.
Just like at the ganja store.
Right. The ganja store loves you too. They love us too.
Yep, they sure do.
Good Lord.
But yeah, so
my pocketbook doesn't like it, but it's okay. It is what it is. Go ahead.
But my lungs like it.
I understand that. Go ahead, baby.
Where was I going with this before I got distracted by weed?
No, we were talking about, there's a right and a wrong time to, talk about people's weight and certain things about people.
Oh, yeah.
If you do it, as a lesson learned, or if you're teaching a lesson, and you're trying to help other people prevent going down that same path, which is what we do here, right? And at the same time, we're also trying to tell those people that have gained the weight or are severely overweight, you need to do something about it, or you're going to die. Like,
get to the doctor. That's your first step. Go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Like I said, listen to your body.
You know what a lot of these people say and do, baby, that are overweight? They go, I'm fat, so I'm just fat. That's what they say. They say I'm fat, and great. One thing to own it, another thing to say you're fat, accept it, and not do a thing about it. You're in essence slowly killing yourself, or maybe even, you're speeding up the process of your death. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Go ahead.
No, I like I said, listen to your body. You start to see.
Listen to your heart when it's calling for you. Listen to your heart.
You done?
Now I am.
Okay. Because there's nothing else I can do. I'm sorry. See, you take me off track. When you start to sing,
listen to your heart before
listen to your body.
You tell him goodbye. Do new 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 new.
Okay. Listen to your body.
Listen to your body.
If
okay.
you notice changes, something doesn't feel good, go to the doctor. For God's sake, I'm trying to get this man in.
Come on, you got to tell me you love my entertainment value.
Yeah, but that's not your health.
I'm going to the doctors, baby. It's all good.
We have all heard last year, I'm going to be going right after the first of the year, right after the insurance kicks over. I'm going to find my primary and I'm going to go.
Okay.
It's July, basically.
We're going. The thing is, and this is no excuse, I got to get in there. We've had so much going on with Dawn's appointments that I've been focusing on that. But I'm going to go. Yes. I need to also have a colonoscopy.
Yes.
Yes. I need to have that thing shoved up my culo. Right? They inspect inside your
You should be used to it with all the fleets you do.
Well, I mean, I don't use fleet all the time, but I use it on occasion. I have chronic constipation since birth.
Yes.
So my shit, gets stuck, and my digestive system's a little bit different. It's just, it happens. You manage it.
And it's just something.
So you're saying I'm used to having things shoved up my rectum, huh, baby?
Alrighty, my point is with this. Listen to your body, Eli.
Am I lying about that?
No. Listen to your body, Eli. What do you need more? Water, fiber. You need to get rid of those fucking fast food burgers.
I typically like to get higher quality burgers, but yeah. And we moderate that stuff, and I walk every day, and yes.
Fiber, water.
Yes. Even though I walk every day and I try to eat healthy most of the time, there are times where none of us eat healthy. We can always improve our diet, right, baby?
Yes.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Now, we went out to a fantastic dinner Friday night, and that's something else to show you.
We went to the grill house.
We had our episode on our walk. We came home.
That was one hell of an episode, huh?
Yeah. We talked, and then we got ready and we went and had a nice
But remember,
dinner.
we also did another live stream
right before we went.
Right now, you're seeing actual picture behind us, but behind what we see behind us is a green screen. It allows us to be transparently laid over whatever background we choose. But we did a brief 20-minute stream from mobile to make people aware. We put the other stream to private, where that episode happened, on the stream, and we wanted to let them know that we're okay. So that way these people don't make any fake wellness checks like they've done in the past on us.
Yeah.
But we also did it because we wanted people to know we're all good. And
yeah, we were fine. Like, you caught us in the middle of something and not at the beginning when we had spoken before about this person. So you got the middle, the cream of the crop, the climax of everything. Then we came home and everything, we spoke about it in a calm way. I explained my reaction. He explained his reaction. Then we were able to go and have a nice dinner without speaking about YouTube or anything, and enjoyed nice, healthy food.
Well, hold on. Let's remind the people what you said. Not remind them, but let me remind you what you said. Are you crying?
No.
Oh, your eyes just, you have the watery eye syndrome, huh?
Not right now.
Your eyes look beautiful. Anyway.
Thank you.
Anyway, they look watery, but anyway, it's all good. Beautiful eyes. So when we got home, you said you lost your appetite. And I said, you did say that.
I did.
Okay. And I said, I would still love to take you to dinner. Even though I was still frustrated about the thing, I was like, I love my woman. Listen, let's put this off to the side. Let's go out, let's continue. Let's go out to dinner. Right. And then you said, okay.
Yeah.
You were going to just call it a night.
Yeah, I was.
But I said, I want to take my lady to dinner. I want to keep my promise. I want to keep my word, because you're always challenging me and saying that I never keep my word on shit. And I usually, I always try to keep my word, unless there's a very good reason. But
yes, you try to keep your word, but it's this thing where I'll say, why don't we do this tomorrow? Or I'll say, can we have this for dinner? And you'll be like, oh, can we do that tomorrow? I don't have the app downloaded. And then it's like, that app is still not downloaded, And so it's like, that's the frustrating thing, is I don't feel like you go that extra effort for me to get different things. And so it always turns out to be the same 3 places.
Yeah, I'm not trying to, and you're right about that. I'm not trying to do that. There's so much going on. And a human being only has so much energy to give each day. And I'm trying to make every step as easy as possible to get back home and spend time with you at night before my eyes feel like they want to shut, and then we don't get our quality time together. I love that time with you every night.
Well, yeah, no, I do too.
And the dogs too, man.
But oh my God, the dogs like literally wait at the door for him to come home. Like, they're so excited.
Oh, they come at the door and they jump on me. Well, they only come to me because they know I have food.
I was just going to say that, but you know what? Other times when he just runs out to run errands, or even just go upstairs and get laundry done, like, they'll sit there at the door and wait for him to come back.
They will.
And yes, I was going to say, when you come home from your walk, he has the food. The big one, I have always right there. But yeah, the problem is though, that there's no time. We're working so much during the day. Like today we're doing this, recording.
I'm going to go walk.
And then he's going to go walk. And then he's going to pick up dinner. And by the time he gets home,
it's going to be 8 o'clock, 8:30.
It's going to be 8 o'clock on Pacific time. And so then to eat food, then you kind of get that food coma and you want to go right to sleep. And we have like 0 time to like sit and talk and reflect on a show we're watching and that kind of stuff. And that, of course, that's frustrating, but we understand. So when it gets to that way, I say, you know what, baby, just go ahead and rest. Or he'll say that to me. And we'll just, unfortunately, it happens a little too often because we are both so exhausted with our schedules, but we don't want to slow down.
You know what it is?
What?
We're trying to get this business off the ground. Let me be real with all of our listeners here on the podcast, not just on YouTube, but wherever else this podcast is at. It's on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and your very favorite,
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio. You say that with a big smile. That's fantastic. You know, if I wasn't creating content on YouTube and also doing this podcast to really try to get the GNA vision out there, I'd have a lot more free time, a lot more energy. And do I feel bad that it comes a little bit at the expense, maybe more than a little bit at the expense of time with my lady and stuff like that? I absolutely feel bad about that. And we've talked about it. I've tried to explain to her, and I'm explaining this on the show here. Unfortunately, that's what it takes to get something off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not an excuse. I'm willing to sit here and hear from my lady that that's an excuse. Maybe to you it is, and I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't challenge you or argue you on that if you said that. The truth of the matter is I care a lot about people. So does Don. This vision of the GNA, this is my purpose. This is my life. This defines me. Without this, the GNA and the vision of this, I am nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And that would affect me from even being present in our relationship. That would affect me from even wanting to fucking live. I know that sounds pretty bad. I'm not a suicidal person. But I'm just showing to you folks, I've been always trying to explain how important the purpose is for men and women. But, it's always been known, in traditional days that, the man's the protector and provider, and the woman's the caretaker, the nurturer, the homemaker, the housewife, right? Now, both men and women have a purpose. A human being's purpose is everything. Without your purpose, what's the point? This is my purpose, and honestly, it breaks my heart to take time away from you at all. But I can't live my purpose, which is the man you love, if I don't do this.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand where all of this comes from. And I'm not saying let's go out and party every night after you
Let's
get
go
back.
party like it's 1999, baby.
Yeah.
2000 party over at a time.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So tonight I'm going to party like it's 1999. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
I have a song for everything.
Love Prince.
God rest his soul.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I was saying party, but no, I don't want to do that every night. But I would like, 1 week a nice dinner, or 1 week we go bowling, 1 week we go to a movie.
I took you out to date night the Friday night, and and after the episode at the park, where you got upset, you had your moment there. You said, I'm not hungry. You lost your appetite, so you didn't want to go. And then I still said, I would love to take you. See, this is what the man does in that situation. You calm down. You say, hey, I would still love to take you to dinner. I said that a couple times. And then she goes, okay, I'll start getting ready. Okay, thank you. Then she calmed down. Then I said, I know this is not the best timing for this, but it's important based on the situation. We got to do a brief live stream. She didn't even question it. She knew it was the right thing to do. You knew we had to do that because everyone was worried.
Yeah.
Everyone was worried, and we didn't want to worry because the last time, we were driving to the Jason Aldean concert, and then a similar thing happened, right?
Yeah.
And then you didn't come back to YouTube for several months. And 1 month after that Jason Aldean concert, someone called a wellness check because of that, because they hadn't seen you around. Well, Dawn can come and go as she wishes.
Yeah, and then after...
And during that time, you were still recovering through everything you went through.
Yeah, and that night after we returned from dinner, Eli also did an in-studio live. And I was like, yeah, I might even pop in on that too. Well, I fell asleep,
You had it on. When I finished the show, I went there. Your phone was still on YouTube.
Yeah, I had it on.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't like getting up and going camera worthy. I was still too sleepy to.
You weren't camera ready, is what you mean.
Yeah,
camera ready.
Yeah. I'm
You're
sorry, I
always
said that wrong.
you're always camera worthy, baby, but you just probably weren't camera ready, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I said that the wrong way.
Camera official, like they say nowadays, right?
Yes.
Or the nowadays people say, if you're going to talk shit, you better cam up. I agree. If you want to talk shit, cam the fuck up.
Yeah.
That's the thing right now. Cam up.
Well, and I understand why on YouTube people shy away from putting their face or their real name.
Because they can't fit in the shot.
Because they what?
Because they can't fit in the shot. Unless you have a good lens like I have, you know, my Sony. My Sony lens is 16 millimeters to 50 millimeters, and it can zoom back to even fit 600-pound people in there.
Yeah, there's a big difference.
But these people don't have quality cameras to do that. Go ahead. Sorry. This is a fun show. Come on, baby.
I know, but I was going to say there is a big difference having the camera to desk links from us instead of being on our laptop and having that camera like right where the microphone is in my face and expanding into this big pancake of a face.
Well, these people don't have the nice professional setup that we have with the Shure SM7D and the Shure SM58. Quality microphones, quality Sony A6400 camera, right?
Yes, and I'd like to say no filter.
No filter. Amen to that. Amen to that. No filter. We're not going to mention names of people that we know definitely use filters.
Well, I mean, you know, filters became very popular on Snapchat.
You do use makeup, though.
I feel comfortable in makeup when I take a photo.
Every woman uses makeup, baby, for the most part. Usually.
No.
Some don't sometimes, but.
And it all, like some just wear some mascara and some lip gloss, you know? And then there's people that are kind of like me where I like to spice it up a little.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are the drag queens, which they have the most beautiful makeup in the world.
Oh.
But it is out there.
Yeah, no, that's
and it's in your face. But it is the most beautiful makeup
job. The
drag
queens are out there. They're actually very entertaining.
They are.
They're extremely drag
and they're
queens.
Very nice people.
They're very nice and they're very down to earth, and they are the most entertaining people I have ever come across.
They love themselves. They love themselves enough to just be themselves.
Well, they do love themselves, but what they even love more than themselves is other people. They love making other people feel good, which is. I'm obviously not a drag queen. No disrespect to the drag queens out there, but you know, I have a similar outlook. I love to entertain people, or more so it's about helping people. But I've learned on YouTube, if you're not entertaining, no one's going to watch you. If you're boring as fuck, people tune away. Let's continue.
I'm jealous of how they do their eyelashes. Woof. They have the best eyelashes.
When we get some more money, and then we'll go to one of a very extremely professional place that does eyelashes. Mm-hmm. Let's continue. We're at 1 hour and 19 minutes. Are you still good?
I am going to have to take a break.
How soon?
We might as well make it, unless this is short.
Yes.
Okay. I can make it till after this.
You got 5-10 minutes?
Yeah.
And then you can take a break before we do the second one here. All right. Okay, so where did we go here? When a truly abusive situation exists, it is because one party is seeking to control the other through abuse. Control requires a power dynamic. Here's what I was going to talk about. In order for one person to exert control over another, that person has to be able to withhold something the other person needs. Example, food, shelter, physical, mental health, autonomy, which is basically you doing things for yourself, mm-hmm. right? Being self-sufficient, right? If a person cannot control the other, they do not have the power to abuse. As such, a person can be mean without being abusive. The relationship you had with that guy, okay? You were the breadwinner.
Of course.
But listen to what was said here. I'm not blaming you, but you had the power. You had the power to go to him and say, look, you're a loser. You're not making any money. You're not contributing here. And that was true. But that was coming off to him as abusive behavior, even though you didn't mean it that way. And then
I was meaning it as encouraging. Like, I know you can do this. You need to get out and get a job that you're happy with, that you can.
I agree.
Can future your purpose and what you want to do. Like,
but this guy wasn't smart enough to understand. He was so mentally challenged or ill or something.
I wouldn't go that far. He was stubborn. And he also had his up and down moments. Like, he could start off and have a great few days where they're like, holy cow, where'd we find this guy? And then next week, he's like messing up his knife cuts. He's just slow, and like, I had one of the general managers of a very, very nice restaurant come up to me and he's like, do you have any secrets to keep him motivated and consistent? And I said, oh God, no. Oh God, no. And then he walks out that same night with a plate that has a dessert, and in chocolate it says, will you marry me, with a fake fucking ring in there.
Oh.
I have no words.
Then let's just continue.
Yes.
Let's get through this real quick, then you can take a potty break, and then we will
do the next one.
Yes. Additionally, abusive relationships, platonic or romantic, are characterized by a pattern of abusive actions. If you get into a fight with a sibling once and they hit you, that sibling is not automatically an abuser. And that's what I say to the YouTube people out there that constantly accuse me of being an abuser.
You've never hit.
Yeah.
You've never hit.
I've never hit. I never put my hands on it.
Well,
if I do this, that's not abusive. That's a term of endearment.
And also, even if he has put his hands
on... That's an act of endearment, not a term. Sorry.
Yeah. Even if he has put his hands on me, it's to catch me before I fall. That's what he would do.
Well, if you want me to put my hands on you in different ways...
Oh.
Come on, baby. Come on.
You know, it gets...
Let's continue, because I know you got a pee-pee.
Yeah.
Okay? On the other hand, constantly beating the shit out of a sibling, especially unprovoked, is physical abuse. I think we can agree that if I wanted to constantly beat the shit out of my brother, and I did that would be physical abuse.
Yeah, or an older brother comes in and intimidates that little brother and, tries to toughen him up, and he thinks he's doing the right thing by knocking him down and saying, don't let people do that. Get up, fight.
Yeah.
But you really are abusing that person,
Yep. Almost all of us cause harm to our friends, family, or partners at some point, intentionally or not. Listen to that, intentionally or not. I've never intentionally meant to harm anyone. But sometimes actions that we take as human beings are going to affect other people, whether we realize it or not, or whether we want it to or not. It all depends on how the other person perceives the way you behave with your actions, right? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, I have nothing else to say. Go ahead.
Oh, did I nail that one?
I think so.
Fuck yeah. Oh, wonderful. Let's continue then. Okay. In healthy relationships, the person at fault feels remorse, apologizes, and does not repeat the harmful behavior. I did an apology stream on YouTube, yesterday as of the day of this recording. Okay.
Okay, I want to chime in really quick.
Okay.
There is a difference between having remorse for doing something and then doing it and just being, oh my God, I'm so sorry, baby. I didn't mean to hit you. Like, I'm so sorry. And every time he hits you, he says the same thing. There's a complete difference. You need to actually have the remorse and show change in behavior.
You need to make progress in the right direction, is what she's saying.
Yeah.
Right?
I gotta stop drinking this. That's what's making me hurt.
Okay, we're almost. Let's get through this, and you can go pee, and then I will make people aware of some stuff. Let's see. In healthy relationships, the person at fault feels remorse, apologizes, and does not repeat the harmful behavior. Abusers may apologize or even love bomb.
That's what I was just talking about.
A partner following a harmful action.
Yeah, you get the roses afterwards. You get all those nice, I love you, baby. I love you. I'm so sorry.
You know what?
It'll never happen again.
You know what? I've learned to not get roses and stuff like that after that, because then women think you're just trying to buy your way back into it. I'll get you roses.
I want roses.
Huh? No, you like sunflowers.
Sunflowers and tulips.
Sunflowers are like roses to you, but typically
those are my roses.
Typically women like roses. That's why they say that, right? But don't get your partner flowers after something like this, because then it comes off like you're just trying to buy your way out of it. And women want it to be authentic. It doesn't come off authentic if you do that. Go ahead.
It does soften the blow a little.
Yes. But wait a day or two before you do that. Initially be there, comfort her, maybe go to dinner or something. But the flower stuff, a lot of times men think flowers are going to fix the entire problem. And the problem is beyond flowers.
Yes, the problem is beyond flowers, but don't take that as we don't want flowers.
Okay.
Flowers can be a form of a thank or a sorry, a sorry or a thank you, and so you come home, couple of sunflowers and say, you know what, baby, I'm really sorry about the other day. I think it was one of my cans. I hope these sunflowers brighten your day. Something as simple as that. And that would change and allow my heart to soften to listen to him. So I think flowers or even a really nice dinner that he prepares at home, don't just take me out and slap your credit card down. That tells me nothing. So put the effort in. Try to cook the meal. Don't try to kill the girl, though.
Okay. Well said, baby. Well said. Real quick here. So, but abusers inevitably go on to repeatedly harm their partners. Abusers may apologize or even love bomb a partner following a harmful action, but abusers inevitably go on to repeatedly harm their partners. Yeah, so an abuser is someone that repeatedly does anything that's unwanted.
They don't learn their lessons. Going back to my relationship with this other gentleman, he literally, like the last straw, we were out and we got into a fight. Where we were, the owner came up and asked me, shall I call the police for you? And I said, no, I don't want to get the cops involved. So a little while later, he goes outside.
Did he hit you in public?
Not right there, no. A little while later, he says he's going to go out and smoke. So I let him go out, and 5 minutes, 10 minutes goes by, and I'm like, where the hell is he? He's in the parking lot in my car. And I go over there to him. He has the door open. I'm standing inside the open door trying to talk to him. He got pissed, put the car in reverse, and literally hit me with the door of the car. That's when the owner happened to be outside, and he just called the cops. And so cops come. He had abandoned my car in another parking lot, and he was walking around the existing neighborhood. They pick him up. They take him to jail. Okay? So I feel I'm pretty safe. He's in jail. Well, he bonds out. How the hell does he bond out on a Saturday nonetheless and not have to go see the judge?
Who bonded him out?
He said he bailed himself out, which I don't know how you do that without money. Maybe weed? I don't know. Who knows what his payment option was. But yeah, he got out. And I was home, back at the home that we shared with his grandmother at the time. And he came home. It was like 11 o'clock at night and he came home. And he went right back at it. He came in, hit me. I ran out. He got the phone and he was hitting me with the phone. And then he had his hands around my neck. All the commotion woke his grandmother up. She came out. She hit him with the other phone, knocked him over, and called the police and had him go back to jail. So in one day, the man went to jail, got out, did the same thing. No lesson learned, no remorse, nothing. Came back and tried to finish the job.
Well, then there's mental illness involved in a gentleman like that.
Oh, yeah. And when I left him, he kept threatening me. He was going to have like bleach and Ajax together and he's going to drink it and die. And he's calling me all day at work saying that. And so finally I called a wellness check. I said, this guy is sending me pictures of the cheap products he's going to mix. I don't know if he's going to do it, but go check it out.
Go check up on this guy.
Yeah. I'm worried for his safety.
Yeah.
And they did. And then he stopped with that and then just started stalking outside of my employer's home. And I couldn't anymore. I was completely out. I didn't go as far as a restraining order, but I let him know to stay away. And he did for the most part, and now just tries to communicate through the phone. And it's been 10 years. And he still hasn't fucking learned his lesson. And he still tries to call me and be like, how you doing? Well, I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking. Click.
Yeah, I've heard this story and it's really traumatizing to me just listening to it. Let's finish this part up so you can go use the restroom. Wow. An important distinction to make is that the same action may or may not be abusive depending on context and harm caused. For example, a parent will limit their child's autonomy. Well, when they're under 18, they have to, limit, what you can and can't do because you're not of legal age. By making them do their chores before buying them a new toy, that is not abuse, that is parenting. Of course that's not abuse. If people can't distinguish that, then they've got
That's teaching them
got mental
responsibility.
illness, severe mental issues.
Yeah, and it's telling, what it's doing is it's teaching. So you have, what is teaching? It's repetition all over every day. You learn more. You learn something different.
Right.
And so that's what these parents are doing. They're holding them responsible, giving them chores. When you complete it, you get a reward. Just like a paycheck. You got to go and work 2 weeks before I'm going to pay you.
Right. So that is not abuse. That is parenting. The child is learning that we all have responsibilities. We know some people on YouTube that have never learned responsibility, even into their 40s. But anyway, and so the child is learning that we all have responsibilities in life, and sometimes we have to delay the fun, of course. Children do not suffer psychological harm from this type of parenting within reason, obviously. The guy just went.
Well, yeah, 'cause I'm going to go finish up and then you can take them.
Okay, so on the other hand, children do not suffer psychological harm from this type of parenting within reason, obviously. On the other hand, if someone forces their financially dependent partner to perform excessive housework before giving them money to buy things for their hobby, that is financial abuse because it creates an unhealthy power dynamic in an ostensibly equal relationship and reduces one partner's autonomy in favor of the other partner's control. Context, power dynamic, mutual respect, and cumulative harm or lack thereof all impact what constitutes abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they're doing construction outside and he hears the banging of the hammers.
On a Sunday?
Yeah, because, they could be doing it on their own. People can be out working. Have you ever seen DIY, do it yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what they're probably doing down there.
you're right.
Or the homeowner just knows people and
Yeah.
they could only work on the weekends.
Yeah. So, okay. Go ahead and take the dog out, use the restroom, and then do what you gotta do. You're gonna take about a 3-minute break or so.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
let me
want
go.
to
Let me go ahead and get off screen here. Yeah, go ahead.
Bochi out?
Yes. All right. So while Dawn steps away to use the restroom and get the dog to go real quick, he doesn't have to go. Yeah, it's okay. Just yeah. So to let you folks all know that this podcast can be listened to or viewed in many different ways, and these dogs are just, oh God, they hear something on the outside. Dawn's in a different room, and the dogs are on high alert. It's all good. They're distracting, but yeah, the podcast is all over the audio only network of podcast, places where you can listen to this at: Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and my lady's favorite, iHeartRadio. We're on YouTube Music. We're also on Audible, which is through Amazon. And if you are listening to us on the audio only network, you can go in the description section of this episode or any other episode, and you will see a link to the video version of that particular episode. Okay. Click on that. That'll take you to our main YouTube channel, GNA, Genuine Personal Development. And when you go there, make sure you subscribe, you bang the bell, you select the notifications so you don't miss anything. And then go below in the description section of the video, and you will see a link to our secondary channel, which is our live streaming channel, GNA2, Genuine Live Personal Development. You're going to want to subscribe there as well after you click the link, then bang the bell and select all notifications. So that way you'll know exactly when we go live. And I go live from walks almost every day, if not every day, almost every day. Out of the 365 days in the year, I would probably say I walk about 350 of those days at least. So, yeah, I occasionally take some days off, but rarely. And basically, we have a topic, but the shows are pretty informal as well. You can ask anything regarding personal development, self-improvement, anything regarding relationships, anything regarding business. We can talk about politics because politics affect us in every way. We talk about everything. So you're going to want to make sure that you are connected with us on both of our YouTube channels, because that's where Don and I spend most of our time. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, X, and all that. But we spend most of our time on YouTube, and most of what we do is free of charge. Yes, we do ask for donations, and if people can't afford to donate, they can, including if you're in the audio-only podcast land. Go in the description, just like you can do the same thing on YouTube, and you will see our PayPal and Cash App links. And if you're able to donate, that would be great. We would appreciate that, because we can't run the organization, without your donations. That's how we're funded. Anyway, so Dawn's about to come back over here, and we're going to get back to it. I'm going to wait until she's situated for me to turn the camera back on, the YouTube side of things.
Mama,
are you ready for that, baby?
Mama's ready.
Okay.
There we go. Thank you, guys. No success with the dog, but success with me.
Yeah, we're back in sync. Okay, we gotta really roll forward. We're at 1 hour and 40 minutes. We gotta blitz through this because we want to wrap this up at around the 2 hour mark. Boo-doop, boop, boo-doop, boo-doo-doo-doo. All right, let's go over to the other. You love when I do that. You used to always go do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
I used to walk around work going do-do-do-do-do. And when I heard him do that, I was like, oh, we're soulmates.
That's because she was obsessed with me and hearing me. She had to hear my voice constantly to make it through her days.
Yeah.
That's a true story. That's
that
no
is
lie.
true.
I'm not being arrogant. That's a fucking true story.
No, when we started dating, I was living in Hollister and he was here in Redwood City. Now, for all y'all not familiar, it's about a 55 to hour.
No, it's an
10
hour
minutes.
and 15-minute drive minimum with no traffic.
With no
It's a
traffic.
75-minute drive.
Yes. So, okay, that's different than 55.
It absolutely is more than 55 minutes, baby. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, I was off. But anyways,
it's all good.
So it's a little bit of a drive. And so we didn't get to see each other as often as we would like. So during the day at work, and it's not because I hated my job. It wasn't that. I just really enjoyed listening to him and his little quirks and things he had to say. And
very
I agreed.
Motivational and inspirational, right?
And
baby?
I agreed. You know, literally when I first met him, I changed his ringtone to humble and kind because that was my first impression of him.
Well, you changed your ringtone on your phone on my number.
Yeah.
Let me clarify.
Everybody knows.
It sounded like you changed my ringtone on my phone. No,
oh, yeah, no, this is
you changed it on your phone. You changed the ringtone when I would call you.
Yes.
It would play that song.
Yeah. And
I just wanted to clarify that, all right?
I'm sure everybody out there understands, you know, you have different numbers and different songs for each people.
Yes.
So yeah, that was the song I made for him. It changed to One of the Good Ones. And that's what it still is.
He's one of the good ones.
Yeah. He is. Honestly, no matter what you think about him based on his YouTube, he really is one of the good ones.
Thank you, baby.
He, supportive, very supportive, emotionally, financially, you know, everything. Everything. We do have shit we got to work on. You know, we do.
Everyone has shit to work on, baby.
You know, I mean, my parents have been married for 47 years and they still work every day at becoming better people and better for each other.
Your dad still thinks your mom is crazy at times?
I think he's gotten over that. I think he just knows who he married. And they work very well together because my dad is a very calm person. Now, growing up, I didn't see that calmness. I saw him getting more
triggered,
irritated. Like
I got yesterday or a couple days ago on that stream.
Yes. I mean, he got triggered just one time that he got home after dinner and we didn't wait for him. And we were all sitting there eating and he got mad and he picked up the bowl of mashed potatoes and threw it at the wall. That was the worst thing he's ever done, you know? And
I cannot picture your dad doing that the way I know him today. I'm like, listen, everybody has their moments, right?
Yeah, and it
doesn't make the guy a psychopath. The guy wanted to come home and spend time with his family.
He wasn't even mad at us. He had a really shitty day and then sat in an hour and a half of traffic.
Everything triggered him.
Yeah, he was just tired. He wanted to come home, have a nice warm meal with his wife and kids, and then relax.
He felt like nothing can go right on this day, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yep.
And it only happened one time. And he realized that was not the way to react, especially in front of his kids. He didn't want us growing up thinking that was okay. So, I mean, everybody makes mistakes and hits their trigger mark. And it's just about how they act when they're having their meltdown. And that's where you can determine if it's abusive or not.
Yeah.
sometimes in the early days, I would react and I would belittle and put down. And that was my defense all the time, especially in the last 2 relationships when I made more money than both of those guys. And even when I was working retail with my last boyfriend, I was making more money at the end than he was. And he had been in that field for many years before he met me.
Wow.
And so it did become, I was the main provider. The only good thing is the second one, he contributed equally. So that helped the situation. Now, in this relationship, I'm unable to work due to medical reasons. One being the seizures the most. I should never be left alone without somebody who's experienced in taking care of somebody who has a seizure, and you never know or if anybody at work is going to be capable of handling that.
Yeah.
And so it's very important to have somebody there.
Okay.
And even my doctor has said that several times. They have not cleared me to go back to work.
They have not.
They've not cleared me to go back to work, and they've not cleared me to drive yet.
Right.
So those are things that they will eventually come back as long as I progress with my health. And I stay on the right track.
We got to see what happens. But let's continue here because we're at 1 hour and 46 minutes. Wow, this is a lot of commentary today. Dad, you had a lot to say about it. This topic is really near and dear to your heart.
It is because I have experienced good and I've experienced the worst. And I can say in my marriage, there was really, looking back, no verbal abuse. I thought there was. There's definitely control. But looking back after everything,
it was disagreements.
It was disagreements about raising our kids, our political views, our sports teams.
Well, you married a highly conservative man, and you're more on the left like myself, more down the middle, slightly left there.
Yeah.
He's more to the right. And that's, I hate to say it, but, political party, even though we should all be the same and all love each other no matter what our political party preferences or views are, in relationships, it typically doesn't really work.
Yeah, and like I said, it was differences even down to our sports teams. I love the Giants. He loved the A's.
Yeah.
Even though the A's aren't our arch enemy, it's still the enemy across the bay.
Well, until their stadium in Vegas is done and then they move there. But no, we'll still love the A's in Vegas. But anyway, let's continue here. Boo-doop, boop, boo-doop, 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 boo. Okay, so this other Reddit posting is from the subreddit Are Abusive Relationships? And the original poster's topic is toxic versus abuse. I'm just going to, wow, this is pretty long. So we're going to go through this pretty quickly. So quick commentary on each one, baby. Can we do that?
I'll try my hardest.
Today, you've been really elaborating, which is good. It feels good to let it out, huh?
Yeah, it does. And I'm sure that somebody out there has experienced similar things to what I have.
Yeah.
And so if anybody out there has experienced a similar activities or lifestyle, they don't have to feel alone.
Right.
I'm not necessarily here to be your therapist to get you through this, but I could be somebody relatable that understands what you've gone through. And if that's how I help, that's how I help, and I'm satisfied.
Wonderful. Toxic versus abuse. I want to discuss the differences between a toxic relationship and an abusive relationship. Over the last few years, I've noticed most people are not aware of the differences or even what constitutes for abuse. That is very true. Very quickly, people can't tell the difference. Even sometimes, like in our relationship, we understand what it is, but it's more important what the other side perceives. That is basically feeling like they're being abused when they're actually not. I would first like to mention I am a DV survivor who spent many years with a DV advocate before becoming an advocate myself. What I'm about to discuss can be found on DV organization sites such as the Domestic Violence Hotline. Okay, interesting. right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's great.
Let's continue. I often hear people throw around the word abuse for any toxic relationship or incident, but abuse may not always be the proper term for some. This is not to invalidate anyone who does believe they are being abused, regardless of the situation. A toxic or abusive relationship is not a relationship anymore. It's not a relationship anyone should have to live through. You're right about that. Who wants to be in an abusive relationship, man or woman? Who wants to be an abuser or be abused? Who wants to be, toxic or be involved with a toxic person?
Yeah, and like by toxic we mean like somebody who loves the drama, who is like out there making drama.
Yeah, like without the drama, they don't have any oxygen, or they feel like they have no self-worth,
or no food in some
they
cases.
use stupid drama stuff other people are going through, and they join forces with other vile groups because it keeps their mind off of their misery. And then a lot of these people will get together and find people like us that are in a good place, and they'll project their misery onto us as a coping mechanism, right?
Yeah.
First of all, abusive relationships are toxic, but not all toxic relationships are abusive. First of all, abusive relationships are toxic, but not all toxic relationships are abusive. Let me explain. Okay, I agree with that. You agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's see what they have to say. An abusive relationship is and always has been a one-way street. Meanwhile, a toxic relationship is usually a two-way street. Let me elaborate. For a relationship to be abusive, there must be a power and control dynamic, like we mentioned in the previous posting, right?
Yes.
You're the breadwinner, you have the money. If you pull away stuff that you're providing for the other partner, that's power abuse, etc. It's using your power to be abusive. Power and control dynamic. And because of this, there cannot be two abusers amongst two people in a relationship together. If you both are abusing each other, then you're just gonna I don't know how that dynamic would go. Typically it's one person being the abuser and the other one being abused, right? In a toxic relationship, it's both of you, pardon my French, are fucked up and need therapy or something. You need to get help, professional help.
Yeah. No, and in a relationship, I really recommend therapy, like relationship therapy. Or they call it couples therapy. Where you can have your partner in there with your therapist discussing issues, and then you could also be with your therapist one-on-one, and then she or he will help incorporate the two views in order to become cohesive and understand why one person has one perspective and the other has another.
Well said. I could not agree with you more. It's been a really good show. The other factor of an abusive relationship is that there will always be a pattern or a cycle of violent incidences that occur within that relationship. Typically, the first warning of abuse is love bombing. That is very true. Love bombing is something I've seen happen on YouTube. People use like these, drama, shit show type of groups. They do live streams. They create these groups where they have people, connect with them behind the scenes through a Discord group. And then whenever new people come around, the creator and the other members of the group, they love bomb you at the door. They make you feel all mushy and gushy. And then they flip the script on you, donate to the content. They get you sucked into the vile content. And then once you try to leave, then they trash talk the shit out of you, or they threaten to trash you. They try to get blackmail on you to keep you around, right? So yeah, love bombing. That's I had never heard that word until about 5 or 6 years ago, when another YouTuber back then that I no longer associate with told me about that word, love bombing. Great word, huh, baby?
Oh yeah.
So typically the first warning of abuse is love bombing, which is when a new partner bombs their victim with extreme displays of attention and affection with the intent to manipulate them, also known as the honeymoon phase. Love bombing is not the honeymoon phase. The honeymoon period is going to happen even in a perfect, healthy start to a new relationship. So I disagree with that. The honeymoon period, yeah, sometimes the guy will love bomb and stuff, or the woman will love bomb, but typically in a normal relationship, that's not the case. It's just the honeymoon period, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's when you usually get more attention and more presence and all that good stuff. But that's how it always is in the beginning.
Right.
You are trying to semi love bomb them, but it doesn't have to be extensive and like so overwhelming of a love bomb.
Okay.
You know, you don't want the guy to be like delivering flowers and writing poems and singing outside your window. How?
Serenading you.
George Adam Yellow.
You don't want to be
is that?
serenaded like they used to do that back in the days, right?
Oh, don't throw any rocks in my window.
Yeah.
You won't like what's coming out.
Once the abuser believes they have the control, the next phase is building tension within the relationship to establish they have control. During this phase, the victim may become anxious, on guard, and hyper alert, waiting for that next argument. The abuser then will take their emotions out on their victim, whether it be emotional or physical. Reconciliation is the third phase. Well, what about the second phase there? The control and all that, during this phase, the victim becomes anxious, on guard, and hyper alert, waiting for that next argument, right? The abuser will take their emotions out on their victim, whether it be emotional or physical. Yeah, I mean, that's just what happens. You have nothing more.
It even include verbal in there.
Yeah.
When that person gets to that limit, there's no saying what they're going to say.
Right. Especially in the heat of the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to the third phase here. Reconciliation is the third phase. This is when the relationship starts moving back into the honeymoon phase. The calm before the storm begins again. This cycle will then continue over and over until the victim can either leave safely or, in worst cases, lead to the death of the victim. Yeah, if you're being abused early on, you got to walk away. I mean, that's just what you have to do. But sometimes, if you walk away, the other side is going to do something stupid, either to themselves or to you or both.
Yeah, people always act on like if they get rejected.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge trigger for, I think, a lot of people. Because I would say 9 out of 10 have never been chosen first, have never been the star of a team.
They've never felt important enough.
Yeah. They're always
that's on you.
Last.
You have to have self-love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that continues on because you just feel, okay, well, I'm just a 7th string person. I'll never be the first string. And if that's the attitude, you're never going to be anything.
You'll never be what you don't have faith in yourself to be.
Yeah, that's why set realistic goals.
Right.
Don't start something at the age of like 30 and decide I'm going to be a major league player, or I'm going to be in the NFL, or I'm going to be the next J-Lo. It's like, give me a break.
With the big booty?
The big booty. I have no booty. I have no booty. But yeah, I mean, you know what I'm trying to say there.
I know exactly what you're saying, baby.
I'll stop rambling.
Okay. That was funny. Toxic relationships, on the other hand, arise out of a lack of control. In a toxic dynamic, there is a lack of healthy, effective communication from either side. This may then lead to one or both people involved to engage in reactive behavior that is out of proportion to the event that is happening, causing friction between both partners. Right. And I think that's what happened to us the other day on that walk, even though it wasn't something between us. And I think a lot of times, I don't think the issues in relationships involve one partner or the other. I think it involves, situational. Well, I think it involves when one partner is having issues with third parties and other people outside of the relationship. I think that's what causes the issues usually, but sometimes it does have to do with in the relationship.
Yeah, a lot of these toxic people want to come into your life and exclude all the other people you have. They want to control you and their time with you and what you're doing versus you coming home from work and saying, "Hey, babe, I'm going to go hang out with the ladies tonight," you know, or the guy comes home and says, "I'm going to go have a couple beers with the guys." That's really important to allow your partner to do and not have that control of like, no, you're staying home. I want dinner. I want the kids bathed. I want them in bed by 8 and silence after that. Who asks for that? Nobody is on that tight of an agenda or an itinerary.
Right. There is an unwillingness of either to take responsibility for their behavior. You've got to accept responsibility. Half the problem in every situation at least involves accepting responsibility, understanding what you did and accepting responsibility for your actions, baby. That should speak for itself.
Well, yeah, and that comes with stepping back and taking perspective, and allowing your brain to process so that you don't just have that immediate emotional reaction.
Right. Both partners may even tear each other apart or even deflect by victimizing themselves. Yeah, that's what a lot of people do. They make the mistake, then they play the role of the victim. It's so funny. I know many people on YouTube that do that.
I'm sure I've done that.
Yeah, I think we've all done that, a time or two in our life. And I think people, are capable of doing that every so often. But I know there are people I've come across in life, especially on YouTube, that constantly live that every moment of every day. They feel they are the eternal victim. And instead of realizing that, accepting it, owning it, same thing, and then, working through it, they continue to go down that dark path, and then they play the role of the victim. They blame others for their own mistake. Even when they reach their 40s, it's really, really pathetic. Unlike abusive relationships, a toxic relationship can often be transformed with willingness and professional help. We've always said that. Therapists, psychologists, combination of both,
Even
mental
just
therapy
a
and
group
medication.
setting, like a group, like, you know what I'm trying to talk about, like a support group.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
And that's what the GNA is. The GNA is technically an emotional support group. That's what we do. We're here to help support people accomplish whatever it is their hearts desire, personally and professionally.
We are the emergency support dog in the relationship.
The emergency support dog. Hey, that's a good way to put a high five to that, baby. The conclusion is that not everyone experiences an abusive relationship, though they might believe they are. This doesn't invalidate their feelings towards their relationship. However, that there is a difference in understanding. These differences can help identify the actual dynamic of a relationship. Abuse is also a serious concern, and we should not be labeling a toxic partner as an abuser if the dynamic doesn't fit an abusive relationship. So basically, I'm not an abuser, and I'm not a toxic person. Okay? Sometimes people have moments, and sometimes people's traumas get triggered unknowingly. Okay? We're talking about this because many people have experienced this in the same ways that Don and I have, but they don't know how to handle it the right way. Or if you haven't experienced it yet, you probably will at some point. And knowing how to handle it is going to be more beneficial to you and your partner. Potentially save you from dealing with a violent situation or even worse, like death. We don't want it to ever get to that point. Anything you want to add to that, baby?
I know you nailed it.
Wow, yeah. Let's see here. Let me see here. This doesn't invalidate. Okay. However, that there's a difference in understanding these differences. Let me start again here. This doesn't invalidate their feelings towards their relationship. However, that there is a difference in understanding these differences can help identify the actual dynamic of a relationship. Abuse is also a serious concern, and we should not be labeling a toxic partner. And I did read this, an abuser if the dynamic doesn't fit an abusive relationship. Okay, I already read that. I read it again. People will let it sink in their head. If you do believe you are a victim of abuse, you should seek out support and remove yourself from the relationship as soon as it is safe to do so. I agree. Let me read it one more time. If you do believe you are a victim of abuse, you should seek out support and remove yourself from the relationship as soon as it is safe to do so. If you have no place else to go, you can call the DV hotline and they will provide you with resources for your closest DV shelters. Please stay safe. Absolutely. That was very well written. Great advice. What are your thoughts, baby? And then we're going to wrap this baby up.
No, that's great advice. And, you can even see that, y'all know me and my TV. At the end of episodes, if there's been a storyline about somebody needing that kind of help, they will make the statement at the end. Somebody like is suicidal, let's say. They'll put the suicide prevention hotline and everything at the end of the show so that people know how to get the help from what they've seen. They recognize they need the help. And now we've given them a tool. Now, once we give them a tool, it's up to them to use it.
Amen.
So I got that saying from Ann Burrell today on my Worst Cooks in America show.
And you watched that on Max. We love Max.
On Max. And I am marathoning all the seasons in, respect to Ann Burrell. And, I loved her as a chef. And so I think that, in my heart, that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Just makes me feel better to see her alive and happy, and not think about what happened.
Wonderful. It's so nice. We get Max ad-free version, free of charge. It's included in our DirecTV subscription because we have Total Choice Premiere. We have all the HBOs, Showtime, Cinemaxes, and they throw that in there. So it's really nice. Max is a phenomenal streaming service.
Yeah, it really is.
Beyond Netflix and Hulu, which we love those two. And we have Peacock. We love Peacock, but Max is great, and so is Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
We
also have Disney Plus, but we don't really use that very often.
No, but there are some things that are released on there, and so we do keep it. But anyway, anything else you want to add, baby, or are you ready to wrap this baby up?
I think I've talked my friggin' thoughts out.
Yeah. Me too. So, 2
With that being
hours
said,
and 8 minutes. Well, hold on. We got to do our outro, baby. Let's start to wrap this baby up. All right. You've been listening to the Don and Eli Take on the World podcast, episode number 15, which is titled In Relationships, What's Abusive and What's Not. One more time, episode number 15 was about in relationships, what's abusive and what's not. Now, baby, let's remind people once again that there are many ways they can consume our podcast. If you are on the audio-only network, if you're listening to us audio-only through Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, my lady's favorite, iHeartRadio, that's right, or YouTube Music, we're on there. We're also on Amazon Audible and the rest of the unknown podcast host sites, okay? So if you're listening to us there and you would like to watch the video version on YouTube, just go below the description of wherever you're listening to this audio only. You'll see a link to the video version there that will take you to our main channel, GNA, Genuine Personal Development. When you get there, subscribe, bang the bell, select the notification so you don't miss anything, and then go below that description of that video, a couple lines down, and subscribe to our live streaming channel, GNA2, Genuine Live Personal Development, where we do live streams, if not daily, almost every day. I walk almost every day live, and I broadcast the walk, and Dawn joins me every now and then, right, baby?
Oh, yeah. We're trying to get me out there at least once a week on the walk.
Right.
So that, I can get out there. I can get my word out there with my people.
Yep.
And yeah, it's a really nice thing. Unfortunately, we did have a hiccup.
Hiccups happen. But anyway, that's the way you do it. Time to go. With that being said, have a good one, baby. Take care. And what? As always,
be good to
each other.